Shri Gurubhyo Namaha children, welcome to our online teaching academy Ekalaiva. The topic of this video is Cbse class 7 science and the name of the lesson is Respiration in Organisms. In this lesson we have already discussed about types of respiration and also respiration in animals, respiration in humans and how the gas has been exchanged and all those things we have discussed in detail. Now in this video we are going to discuss about respiratory system in plants. What is happening in the plants we can see. And the learning objective of this part is, at the end of this lesson, you will be able to say what is respiratory system in plants, how the respiratory system works in plants, and also different parts of the plants which undergo respiration. And during the respiration, we are going to discuss about the activity. That activity proves that during the respiration, carbon dioxide is released. And we are also going to discuss about the activity where it will prove that during respiration heat is evolved. And also we are going to discuss about the anaerobic respiration in plants. Now let us start the class. So first let us define what is respiration in case of plants. Respiration in plants is a process in which it absorbs free oxygen molecules to produce water, carbon dioxide and energy which is required for the plants. And we know what is respiration. Respiration will unlock the locked energy, which means we know that plants will prepare their own food by the process called photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, with the help of the raw material in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the plants will synthesize the food. And once the synthesized food will be converted into energy only in the presence of oxygen. So that is what we have discussed here. Now let me show you the chemical equation for photosynthesis and as well as the respiration. So in photosynthesis, as I said earlier, carbon dioxide, water along with some minerals in the presence of sunlight and as well as chlorophyll. So in the presence of sunlight and as well as the chlorophyll, by using this carbon dioxide, water and along with some minerals, it will synthesize a food called glucose, that is C6H12O6 stands for glucose. And along with that, carbon dioxide plus water will be released. So this is what the equation for photosynthesis. So here what happened, the plant has synthesized the food. Now the plant should get the energy from the synthesized food. For that conversion it needs oxygen. So here in this equation you can see that C6H12O6, that is nothing but the glucose in the presence of oxygen, will be converted into carbon dioxide, water and along with that energy. So this is how the plant get energy. So during the daytime, the plant, both the process, for example photosynthesis and as well as the respiration, both the process will takes place, because we know that for photosynthesis sunlight we need, it is the ultimate source of an energy. So in the presence of sunlight only photosynthesis will takes place. So you can see in this picture both photosynthesis and as well as the respiration will takes place during daytime. For photosynthesis the plant need carbon dioxide, but for respiration it need oxygen. and during that photosynthesis you can also see that there is a release of oxygen. So, oxygen will be used up for their respiration. And during the day night time you can see that photosynthesis is not at all possible to happen because of the absence of sunlight, and only the respiration will takes place. So, many of the elders they used to tell us, and it is also recommended, which is not recommended, that we should not sleep under the tree during the daytime. What is the reason behind? Because photosynthesis will not take place during during night time, only respiration will take place. During respiration process, the plant will release the carbon dioxide, and as we human beings also will inhale the oxygen and exhale the carbon dioxide. So, plant also exhale the carbon dioxide. So, the availability of oxygen during the night time under the tree is very less. That is why the person who is sleeping under the tree will suffer for breathing. So, that is why they used to tell us we are not supposed to sleep under the tree during the night time. Now, we will discuss about what are all the parts involved in the respiration process. We know very well about the photosynthesis because all the green parts of the plant will undergo photosynthesis, and now we are going to discuss about the parts of the plant which undergo respiration. So, there are three parts in the plants which undergoes respiration: root hairs, Lenti cells and stomata. So, these three parts are the major site for the respiration in plants. Now, we will discuss about this in detail. First, we will go with the respiration in roots. So, we know very well the parts of the root. The root, let me draw a diagram of a root, a rough diagram. There are two types of roots are there, we know that, and we don't want to go in detail about it. So, there will be a primary root and there will be a secondary root, and secondary roots will have root hairs. So, these root hairs are the major site for respiration. So, what they will do, they absorb the air from the air gaps or spaces. So, the soil, there will be an air gaps and as well as the spaces. From that the root hairs will absorb the oxygen, and also that absorbed oxygen through root is utilized to liberate the energy. So, the root hairs will absorb the oxygen so that the stored glucose will be converted into energy. So, that is how the root hair plays a major role over there. And the next one is the stomata. We know about stomata from lower class onwards, we were studying about the stomata. So, stomata leaves used to consist tiny pores called stomata. So, stomata, you know the structure of a stomata, there will be a guard cell, okay, and there will be a stomatal pore. Through the stomatal pore, the gaseous exchange will take place, both for photosynthesis and as well as the respiration. Both the process will happen through the stomata. So, gaseous exchange occurs through the diffusion through the stomata. So, diffusion I have told you already, oxygen will enter and carbon dioxide will be released. So, if you talk about the stomata, during the photosynthesis, carbon dioxide will diffuse into it and oxygen will be diffused out. During respiration, oxygen will diffuse in it and carbon dioxide will be diffused out. And you know that how the guard cells were regulated the stomata. We will see how the guard cells were regulating. So, when the guard cells are in a closed state, that is we used to call it as flaccid stage. So, when the guard cells, this yellow color, these are the guard cells, and when the guard cells are closed, when they will be closed only when they are in the flaccid stage. So when they are closed, the oxygen or else carbon dioxide. Now let us talk about the respiration. So in respiration, oxygen will get out of it. Okay. During open, when the stomata is open, that one we will call it as turgid. So when the guard cells are in turgid position, the oxygen will get enter into it through the diffusion, and during flaccid it will come out through the diffusion. And this is how the gaseous exchange takes place through stomata. Now we will switch on to the next part, that is Lenti cells. So respiration in stems, they are called as the small pores which is present in the bark of the tree. We used to call it as Lenti cells, and these Lenti cells usually you can see in the bark of a tree, and there will be a small gaps, and through that this oxygen will enter into the plant, and once it is enter into that, glucose will be broken down and it will get converted into energy. And even you can see the pores in the surface of the apples. You could have find some small white dots, that is nothing but it is the Lenti cells where the gaseous exchange takes place. And even in the pear fruit, surface of the pear fruit, you can see small holes. They are nothing but it is the Lenti cells where the gaseous exchange takes place. Now we are going to discuss about an activity, and before that let us talk about how these aquatic plants they are how they are respiring. Okay. So aquatic plants absorb the oxygen which is dissolved in water. Okay. And the free floating microscopic plants like algae, you know what is algae? This is what the algae, and also some submerged plants. Okay. So algae and submerged plants, these plants they will release oxygen. When they will release oxygen? During the photosynthesis. And when they release the oxygen, they'll release the oxygen directly into the water, where it is used by animals and other organisms including the plant themselves. Same thing, during photosynthesis the oxygen will be released, and the released oxygen will be dissolved in the water, and the dissolved oxygen will be used for the respiration purpose, both for the animals and as well as for the plants. Now let us discuss about the activity. So in this activity, the aim of this activity is during the respiration carbon dioxide is released. Now let us discuss what are all the materials needed for this activity. We need a conical flask and KOH solution, that KOH stands for potassium hydroxide, and we need a cork, and we need some germinating seeds. It may be gram seeds or otherwise peas, and we need a beaker, and then we need a colored water and a bent glass tube. So these are all the materials required for this activity to perform. So let me explain you what we are going to do in the procedure. So in the procedure, obviously we are supposed to take the germinating seeds, maybe a gram or otherwise peas. We need to take it in the conical flask, and in the conical flask, in a test tube, we are supposed to keep the potassium hydroxide solution, and we need to close the cork, and cork should allow the bent tube. One end of the bent tube will be set inside the conical flask and the other end will be in the beaker which carries the colored water. Now what you have to do is, with the help of a wax or Vaseline, you are supposed to close the entry point of the conical flask, which will avoid the gaseous exchange. Okay. And you need to leave this setup for about 1 hour, and after 1 hour, before leaving it, you are supposed to make the initial level of water level in the test tube. So before setting up, leaving it for 1 hour, you should make a note of the initial level of the colored water in the bent tube. Once you have noted it, you have to leave it for 1 hour, and after 1 hour what is the observation we are going to see over here is, there will be a rise in the water level. Okay. So what is the signs? What is the signs over here? Why does the water level has been increased? Because germinating seeds will respire. During respiration, they will release the carbon dioxide. When they release the carbon dioxide, that will be absorbed by the KOH, which is there in the test tube. Once it absorbs the carbon dioxide, there will be a vacuum. Vacuum will be created over the conical flask. Once it created the vacuum in the conical flask, it will makes the water to rise up in the level. So that is what the signs in this activity. Now I am going to explain about the other activity where it proves that heat is evolved during the respiration. So for this activity, the materials required are, we need a vacuum flasks, and then we need a thermometer and a wet cotton, and also we need some germinating seeds. So germinating seeds we are supposed to divide into two, and one half of the germinating seeds should be boiled. Okay. Now what we are going to do it, we have to take two different vacuum glass flask. Let it make it as A and as well as the B. In the A flask, we are supposed to keep the germinating seeds. Okay. And the B flask, the killed seeds, which means seeds which has been boiled, and those seeds we have to keep it in the flask B. And once we have done, we should insert a thermometer in both the flask, and we have to seal the mouth of the flask by using a wet cotton, and we need to leave this setup for few hours. Okay. Once we have left it like that, what we are going to observe here, we need to note it down the reading of a thermometer, and after few hours we should note the reading of a thermometer, and what we should see over here is, there will be a rise in the temperature in the germinating seeds. But in case of flask B, the thermometer will remains the same, there will not be any change. So what is the signs over here? Germinating seeds will respire. During respiration, obviously they will release the heat, and because of that the temperature has been raised up over there. But in case of flask B, the killed seeds we have kept it there, and they will not undergo any respiration, so that respiration will not undergo, so that there will not be any change or any rise up in the temperatures. Now we are going to discuss about the anaerobic respiration. We know the meaning of anaerobic. Anaerobic means absence of oxygen. Or without air, you can mean it in any way. So, when the absence of oxygen, how these plants were respiring? The oxygen supply to plants can run out. When it can be run out, this if the soil gets waterlogged. So, if the soil gets waterlogged, and obviously the root cannot get the oxygen. Yes, and if in that case, obviously the plants will undergo anaerobic respiration. So that we know what is anaerobic respiration. So without this oxygen, you know what is that? C6H12O6, it is glucose. Glucose will directly converted into 2C2H5OH, and this is nothing but is the ethanol. They will be converted directly into ethanol plus carbon dioxide and along with the energy. So, in the absence of oxygen, the glucose directly will be converted into ethanol with carbon dioxide, and it also releases energy. So, this is what the anaerobic respiration in plants. When anaerobic respiration takes place in yeast cells, it referred to as fermentation. Okay. So, fermentation is the process used for baking bread. So, these are the yeast cells. You could have read about this yeast cell during budding. Okay. And these yeast cells are used for fermenting the bread, that is baking the bread. Okay. And this is what about they will the fermentation is the another process, anaerobic process, which will happen in the absence of oxygen. So that's all about this topic, and with this topic we were completing the lesson called respiration in organisms. So please children, please subscribe our channel to get the latest updates. Thank you children.